fiends, and welcome once again to another edition of the Ministry of Horror. I'm, as always, your host, Tezz, and if you are watching this live currently on twitch.tv/Tezzies or at a later point on YouTube, you will see that I'm in very different digs. The location has changed. The Ministry of Horror HQ, as it were, has changed. As mentioned on the last show, I was, at that stage, in the process of moving home, and that process has now occurred. So you may notice that I now have a black wall behind me. I have a number of new bits of artwork that you may not have seen before, and also, quite clearly, is a light-up sign saying Ministry of Horror HQ. So yes, we are back. The Ministry of Horror is back in a new setting. So yes, I have moved in with my lovely girlfriend Victoria, and she has arranged for all this decorating and really bringing the place together and creating a new home for not just me but also the Ministry of Horror. So thank you, Victoria. It's been a heck of a week. If you're following the Discord, you may have seen a couple of messages from me in regards to the show going ahead tonight and start time. So we are just a bit slightly later than we would normally be. But that is due to the fact that early this week was the move day. We had originally planned to do it across 2 days, but we thought, let's go for it. Let's just go ahead, push through and do the move in 1 day, which was great. I mean, it was very, very taxing, but it was great. We got it done. Mammoth effort from both of us. But due to the van filling up with all of my crap, we kind of thought it's one thing covering up some TVs, mounting them to the walls of the van, and desks and whatnot. But I've got a lot of monitors, not just my own ones, but also work ones, because I work from home a lot for the day job. So I decided we'll leave them at the flat, we'll come back at a later point. But obviously then today is Ministry of Horror Day, and I wanted to kind of keep the good times rolling, get the new show out as soon as possible in the new location. So today, Friday 29th, was a bit of a rush to drive down to the flat, pick up the monitors, get my ass back up here, plug things in, get everything kind of set up. Like, I've got a new light for the setup. My ring light, which is a cheap piece of crap, died in trying to basically take down my old setup. So it was a good reason for me to get a new light. So I got this Logitech one. I think it looks pretty neat. And yeah, that kind of brings us to now. It's just been manic. The work continues. There's always stuff needs doing. I've got a lot of cable management to do. I don't normally bother with cable management, I will be honest. But I kind of feel that, new location, new setup with the desk, because I'm condensing my work desk and my streaming/gaming desk into one desk. So I want to try and keep it nice and tidy as best as I can. So I've got some nice cable sleeves and all that nerdy shite, which, some point this weekend I'll spend a bit of time doing that, because we've got TV set up to kind of work through and all this shit. But what it will mean is that I will basically be able to have a console right at my streaming setup. So ideally, I'll be able to do a little bit more gaming, streaming as and when, But we shall see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, I hope everyone is good. I hope the stream is coming through well. Let me know if there's any buffering. I'm not sure if I'm getting a bit of a buffer issue on how it's looking on my end, but yeah, just let me know in the chat if there's anything funny going on when you have to unplug things and plug things back in from one place to another. Something always tends to fall over. My PC, for example, got here on the Tuesday, unloading stuff, tried turning on the PC, wouldn't turn on. So that was a nice little panic, but some advice from friends and family, and all is good. So the show is going out That's the main thing. But I hope everyone is doing good. We got Fran in the chat. We got the Gruff. Hey guys, how's it going? I know Vix is downstairs, and we're all ready to talk some horror, have a bit of a kickback, discuss the latest events, and then do an after show watch party. So if you are watching live, stick around after the show. We'll be putting a horror film on Prime, watching it, have a drink, have a couple of snacks, that sort of thing. Just a nice chill evening. So before we go on, we got so Fran chat. Gruff, Fran is glad it's the weekend at last. Gruff, amen to that. I have a few days off now too. Excellent. Hope you both either having a chill weekend or you've got nice relaxing plans ahead. So in terms of tonight's show, I didn't really have a plan, as is usually the case, of what we can kind of discuss. It kind of came to me earlier on today, actually. It's a smaller franchise, but it's one that is, teetering on the edge of returning, and that is one that I thoroughly enjoy, and that's Fright Night. So we're going to be discussing the original Fright Night duo of films, and then the remake, and the sequel, if you want to call it that came after the remake. It's there's some good films in the Fright Night series, but like any horror franchise, they're not all good. We'll talk about that. We've also got some, after the news, we've got some reviews, one of which we've finally been able to watch, Talk to Me. So that will be getting a review along with another film a little bit later on. As Vic says in the chats, apologies if there's any potential noise in the background. Shouldn't be. I don't think anything would be getting picked up on the microphone, but we don't have a door yet for the Ministry of Horror HQ, so if you do catch anything, it might well be Penny, our dog, barking because she sees someone move, or she wants food, or she's just kicking off. Bless her, but she's a little sweetheart. Right. Okie dokie. Fran in the chat, hopefully off to see Saw X tomorrow. Enjoy. That has come around quite quickly. Gruff is great. Vix is slowly getting through all the moving boxes. Oh, we know that pain, Gruff. We know that pain. I thought the other day that I'd gone quite productive. I'd been to the gym early in the morning, got through a whole bunch of boxes, or got boxes moved upstairs and unboxed, cleared through a lot, and you think, awesome, I've been, really hammering through the boxes, but they're never all done. There's always a couple of lingerers. But no, Vix has smashed it while I've been on the road today, and we are getting there. I've still got a couple of boxes in this room, cables and bits and bobs. So when we've done some moving things around, I can then sort of, go through that and put them into little storagey bits and bobs, but it's getting there. So Gruff, we know the pain of moving bits and bobs around. Honestly, we do. So just before we continue, Gruff, if there's an interruption, I'm happy with it being a dog. Well, Gruff, the thing is, because I'm upstairs now, no longer on a ground flat, we won't have Poochie Cam of Horror anymore. We may have the odd cameo. If I can figure out how to have like a camera downstairs to go to like dog cam for Penny, Pippin, and Bailey, the Pooch of Horror, then that could be fun. I've no idea how you do that, so don't hold me to that. But no, there's no Pooch of Horror on the streams. But I'm sure in the Discord I'll bombard, especially with the Halloween outfits, I'll bombard everyone with dog pics. So yeah, we'll just have a quick run through the remainder of the chat as it comes through before we get into the news. Fix says, Fran, that's awesome. I was going to suggest to Tezz that we try and see that. I'm down to watch Saw X, as we mentioned on a few shows. Prior to doing the Saw review of the franchise, I wasn't really that fussed with the series, but I actually quite enjoyed it. Other than Spiral, I didn't really think that much of, and Saw 5, which was kind of crap. It's generally, I've reevaluated my thoughts on the series, so I had quite a lot of fun. And Saw X trailers look pretty fun, pretty interesting. Gruff, how's the Pooch of Horror handling the move now? Yeah, Poochie's been doing good. He's been doing good. He's a right cuddle monster. He's a right attention seeker, but I think he's always been that way. He was a little bit, not a nightmare. That's a bit harsh, but he was a little bit of a distraction at times in the moving van, because the way we did it was we took Poochie in the van to get to my dad's, so my dad could look after him, ideally for the night, because I was going to be giving my bed, mattress and frame to my dad for his spare room, because he's had that sort of vacant for a while. So that was the initial plan. And on the drive there, Poochie is a bit of a fidget, and he won't just sit still. He does for about 5 minutes, and then he gets up, rotating round and round, and almost falling off into the footwell, and not ideal, not ideal, bless him, but you can't be mad at him because he's a little sweetheart. But no, he's been fine. He's just a very placid dog, really. Poochie's doing well, Gruff. He is loving life, Vic says. No Pooch Cam, I'm out laters. Yeah, sorry, Gruff. Sorry. Yeah, we'll see what we can do about Pooch Cam. I've no idea if there's like wireless mics with, not wireless mics, wireless cameras in a budget, but certainly not for this month. We are tightening the bootstrings and trying to be good. I'm getting a little bit of a cackling sound. I'm not sure if that is my microphone or my headphones. It could be probably because my phone is sending out a signal. Let's just move that away. Anyway, let's get into the latest in the horror news. This is the news. There we go. This is the latest in horror news. This comes directly from bloodydisgusting.com, as per all of my horror news, so I'm just going to throw it out there at the start now. This is written by John Squires. This is the 7 new horror movie releases this week, including what Fran will be seeing this weekend, and at some point potentially me and Vix, Saw X in theatres. It's the final week of September, and you better believe the new horror releases are going to ramp up big time in the coming weeks. But first, we've got 7 new movies this week. So, the ultra-violent horror movie Megalomaniac was released in select theatres early this month, and the film has hit VOD outlets on Tuesday, 26th of September. Winner of the top jury prize at the Fantasia Film Festival, this brutal and dark serial killer film utilises the backdrop of an unsolved true crime. With Megalomaniac, prolific filmmaker Karim Ouahaj, Méliès d'Or winner for The Frozen Eye, brings us his 4th feature and by far his most savage. In the film, Martha and Felix are the children of the Butchers of Mons, a notorious Belgian serial killer from the 1990s. Unstable and riddled with insecurities, Martha lives vicariously through social media. Her brother, crushed by the family legacy, takes over their father's killings. Harassed and violently assaulted at work, the docile Martha falls into madness and goes through the looking glass into the strange and terrifying world inhabited by her brother. Okay, I'm not familiar with this director's previous work, such as The Frozen Eye. It kind of sounds interesting, I guess. A trailer is available for it. It looks kind of art house gore, potentially. But yeah, one to keep an eye out on. It's new horror at the end of the day. Fans of Train to Busan probably won't want to miss Welgo USA's Gangnam Zombie, a South Korean horror movie that was released onto digital and Blu-ray on Tuesday. I wonder if that cackling sound is maybe my microphone peaking. Let me just adjust my levels slightly. Apologies. In the wealthy Gangnam district in the heart of Seoul, mass chaos ensues when previously normal people suddenly begin viciously attacking other citizens, leading an elite former Taekwondo athlete to take on one final match against the Walking Dead. Gangnam Zombie is directed by Lee Soo-seong and stars Ji Il-ju, Park Ji-yeon from the chart-topping group Ta Ara, and Cho Kyung-hoon. So there you go. If you're fans of any of those actors, actresses, want to keep an eye out for. When I see Gangnam Zombie, I can't help just associate it with Gangnam Style. I didn't even know that Gangnam was a district. I just assumed that was just related to the song. There we go. that's the extent of my knowledge there. Please let me know in the chat, guys, if you are hearing a random cackling sound. I'm getting it in my headphones, and it is quite distracting. But you know, the teething issues. But yeah, Gangnam Zombie. So, as mentioned by Fran in the chat, Train to Busan is one of their favourite zombie movies. I only saw it recently, earlier this year, if not very late last year. Yeah, it's Train to Busan was a hell of a lot of fun. I wasn't that fussed with the sequel. I think the sequel was decent. Peninsula, I think it was called, but generally, the original film is incredibly unique and quite brutal in places. It tells a great story. Hey, Berocles is here. Oi, oi, looking good. Thank you, Barrow. Appreciate that, my dude. Appreciate that. And I think we've had I don't seem to get notifications anymore of resubscriptions or subscriptions, but we've got a sub, so I appreciate that, guys. Hope you're all doing good. No sound this end, I don't think. Vic says, okay, thank you. It could well just be my headphones. Maybe the cable got nicked during transit. These things happen. Demon to some, angel to others. Doug Bradley is back in the upcoming horror movie The Exorcists, a riff on William Friedkin's horror classic that's releasing this week. The Exorcists comes to theatres and digital on Friday, September 29th. The film will be playing in the following theatres. I don't need to give you the list of the theatres. In the film, when his child is possessed by an unrelenting evil, a father hires 3 expert exorcists to purge the demon and save his family. But this demon is merely the gatekeeper to a true hellion that will be unleashed on Earth if the trio of exorcists fail. Doug Bradley, who people will know from Hellraiser, stars in director Jose Prendes' The Exorcist alongside Michelle Bauer, Kate Hodge, Kaylee Fields, Denise Duff, Robert Donovan, and Victor Morana. Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the trailer. There is a trailer available. God, I say this every show. I haven't watched the trailers because it's all kind of last minute. But yeah, I mean, initially, I'm always a bit nervous when I see exorcism-based films, just because we've discussed this. There's more bad than good. And we have got the new Exorcist film, Deceiver, coming up. I will endeavour to make sure I watch it, and I will coincide that with a Exorcist-centric show, talking about the Exorcist film franchise, along with the television series, because I have seen all of that, so I can discuss it. Makes a change. But yeah, Deceiver. There's glimpses in both trailers, glimpses that it might be okay, and that's not really setting expectations very high at all, because more of the trailers look like kind of derivative shite, which is a shame. I don't know if that's a case of the director churning out another new trilogy of bullshit, or that it's just, you know, the Exorcist original caught lightning in a bottle, and the majority of things since have kind of been poor imitations, maybe. I don't know. But this is a new riff on William Friedkin's horror classic. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, we're just days away from the return of Jigsaw and Amanda in the 10th installment, Saw X, a sequel to James Wan's original horror classic that takes place before the events of Saw 2. Saw X releases in theatres on Friday, September 29th. Lionsgate teases... sorry, I'm just messing with my volume. Lionsgate teases the return of Tobin Bell to the franchise. Fucking hell, I've read that wrong. Start again. Lionsgate teases the return of Tobin Bell to the franchise furthers Lionsgate and Twisted Pictures' goal of a film that captures everything Saw fans love about the franchise, while also keeping them guessing with all new traps and a new mystery to solve. John Kramer is back for the untold chapter of Jigsaw's final games. Set between the events of Saw 1 and 2, a sick and desperate John travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure in hopes of a miracle cure of his cancer. In his signature Oh shit, only to discover the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. The infamous killer returns to his work, turning the tables on the con artists in his signature visceral way through devious, deranged, and ingenious traps. Kevin Gruterd, who did Saw 6 and Saw 3D, directed Saw X for Lionsgate. Yeah, Saw 6 was decent. I remember it being much better than Saw 5. And Saw 3D... Saw 3D is alright. You know, it's got a few holes here and there, but it also tries to do a nice way of connecting some of the films from the original up to current. So yeah, we've got Bericles in the chat. How's it going, dude? Hope you're good. We will definitely discuss a wrestling show, now that I have, and this was honestly a photo finish of getting the monitors and everything plugged in. But yeah, pretty much good to go for another wrestling show soon, dude. Fran says, not franchise. I think I'm having a stroke. I need to drink some water. Fran says, you mess with the Kramer, you get the Saws. Yeah, if people haven't seen Saw X, the trailer, give it a watch. I was chatting to a friend recently who said that they may look to get around to watching the new Saw film, but they've not really kept up to date with them. And I said, you know what, it's I felt the same until doing a rewatch of the films. And if you say to someone, it's a good idea to binge the Saw series, they would probably think like me, why would you want to binge the Saw films? That's just depressing. That's just, like torture after torture. To a degree, but they actually are one of the better series of connecting the story on and on and on, connecting it together and doing it that way gave me a much better appreciation, sometimes watching 2 Saw films in a day. Again, wouldn't have ever thought I'd be finding that enjoyable, but I really had a good time. So yeah, if you are on the fence, have a Saw binge one weekend. And Bericles says, deep breath, relax. Then running on fumes after about 6.5 hours just sat in the car today. I always find that sort of knocks me for 6 a little bit. Okay, we've got a few more releases to go through, quite a few more. For one woman, dreams and ambition turn into a literal nightmare when a mythical demon invades. Nightmare makes its exclusive streaming debut on Shudder this Friday. Now, do we have that? That is the question. I haven't looked at any Shudder films. Well, I haven't had time recently, but Shudder have been putting on more and more new films, and the new films I've watched have tended to be kind of crap. You got to call a spade. So let's see. Do we have Nightmare? It's taken a little while to load. Recently added. The Ones You Didn't Burn. Bloodflower. Nightmare. We do have it. Okay. Okay, well, I will... and we do also now have a film we've discussed on the news a couple of times. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. That is also now on Shudder. So Nightmare, I will endeavour to give that a watch. Well, let's talk about it first, actually. Why am I committing to something when I haven't even read the blurb? In Nightmare, Mona and Robbie are a young couple in love. Robbie has just landed his dream job and they've scored an amazing deal on a spacious, if run-down flat. Never mind that it requires quite a bit of renovation. Never mind the neighbours' constant fighting and screaming baby. Never mind that Mona is suddenly plagued by night terrors which grow more intense every time she falls asleep. Robbie is eager to start a family despite Mona's hesitation. Eventually, Mona's issues spiral dangerously out of control as she becomes convinced that she is being attacked by a mythical demon, the Mayor, intent on possessing her unborn child. The Norwegian language film hails from writer-director Kjersti Helen Rasmussen, who did The Tunnel, think I've seen The Tunnel. I remember that being quite good. Nightmare was produced by Ina Loftuston and John Ina Hager. I mean, I think that blurb sounds pretty interesting. It's not really, reinventing the wheel or anything, but I remember us reading a blurb a few weeks back, or maybe on the prior show, when the blurb sounded interesting until it got to a particular point, and I think the point was naming the creature, and I thought, you've kind of lost me there. And the mythical demon being called the Mare in a film called Nightmare. Yeah. But still, I'm going to be checking it out. Berkeley's next month is probably going to be chock full of releases for obvious reasons. Well, yes, I should hope so. I do need to actually this weekend find what list I'm going to work with for the 31 days of horror. I did it last year. I watched a film every day of horror. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to use a different list this time. But yeah, next month is going to be chock-a-block. And now that we've got the move done, and Vix is aware that I will be watching a horror film every day in the month of October, if there's a particular day where it's like work and then we're going out for a show or something, I will then watch 2 films the following day because, I'm not going to then go, I insist on staying up to 2 a.m. to get a film watched for a little challenge. No, that's silly. Coming next week, Vic says, better internet in this house. Oh, are there issues with the stream on the viewer ends? Apologies if so. I've got no idea what it looks like this end. Apparently only 14 dropped frames, which is tiny, so hopefully it's okay. Graph is having some texting issues. It happens to the best of us, mate. Fran, is pregnancy-related horror a trend right now? This and the new season of American Horror Story and Clock. I'm aware of American Horror Story. That's got Kim Kardashian in it, hasn't it? I'm not up to date with American Horror Story. I've tried. I can't do it anymore. And Clock. I don't know what Clock is, Fran. Let us know. But yeah, when I was reading that, I mean, the first thing I thought of in regards to pregnancy possession horror was the worst, in my opinion, the worst Nightmare on Elm Street film, which is part 5, The Dream Child. Yeah, I do think that's worse than Freddy's Dead. Freddy's Dead's at least quite funny. Nah, stream is fine. I just can't use it down here. Oh, shit. Okay, so I may have derailed Vix's evening of being able to watch any TV at all. But next week we're getting proper internet. Or better internet, so apologies, Vix. Whoops. So next up, the low-budget Halloween-themed horror anthology 1031 will soon unleash another sequel with 1031 Part 3. I've never seen any 1031 film. This time offering up 4 brand new tales of All Hallows Eve terror. 1031 Part 3 will be released on VOD outlets on Friday, September 29th. Here's the full synopsis. This year brings you 4 more creepy tales of mummies, madmen, and fun-sized demons. Michael Bailiff unravels horror in the House of the Mummy. Jacob Perrott discovers evil waiting in a couple's new home in The Locksmith. Brad Twigg shows you why you should leave your creepy neighbour alone in Old Man Gross. And Zane Hershinger plays with demonic objects in Hack in the Box. 1031 Part 3 also features faux movie trailers for The Slaughter, Night of the Halloweenies, Radio Tower Road, Candy Killer, and A Stranger's Treat. The original 1031 was released in 2017, and Part 2 followed in 2019. Never heard of them. I mean, low-budget horror anthologies can usually be pretty fun. Obviously, it's always a mixed bag at the end of the day, isn't it? But, yeah. Not bad. Fran in the chat. Well, Vix will watch the show. I appreciate that. Fran in the chat. Clock is on Disney Plus. Star. A woman enrolls in a clinical trial to try and fix her seemingly broken biological clock after friends, family, and society pressures her to have children. All right. There's a few things that have come onto Disney Plus that I just really need to find the time to watch. There's a new science fiction horror called No One Can Save You or No One Will Help You, which I've heard good things about. So maybe if time permits, I'll try to review that for the next show. And last up in the new horror films, an ancient prophecy centered around immaculately conceived twins, one evil and one good, is poised to deliver new religious terror in Deliver Us. Magnet releasing will unleash the religious horror film in theatres and on VOD on Friday, September 29th. In Deliver Us, when a nun in a remote convent claims immaculate conception, the Vatican send a team of priests to investigate, concerned about an ancient prophecy that a woman will give birth to twin boys, one, the Messiah, the other, the Antichrist. Deliver Us is directed by Leroy Kunz and Crew Ennis from a screenplay by Leroy Kunz and Kane Kunz. The film stars Maria Vera Ratti, Leroy Kunz, Alexandra Milos McCarthy, Hans Robert Varts, Alexander Siddig, Juan Kimmel, and Thomas Kretschmann. Yeah, it must be a trend. Another pregnancy-based horror. On the small screen this week, Netflix docuseries Encounters, which I remember thinking that sounds quite interesting, and the Castlevania franchise return to Netflix with Castlevania Nocturne, which I remember watching the trailer for that also and thinking, looks like it could be quite good. Pericles, only 2 of those are real names. Oh. No, generally that is the list of the cast. Let's have a look at some not Friday the 13th news, but I don't have any Halloween centric things ready on the soundboard, which is crazy considering it's one of my favorite franchises, which is also crazy considering the hate that I have for the last film released thus far. I'm just impressed with your pronunciation, Berkeley says. Normally I completely butcher it, so I appreciate that. I normally look at names that aren't John Smith or you know, I don't know. And I'll just go, okay, I'm just gonna try my best. I appreciate that. So yeah, we're going to talk about the future of Halloween. Malik Akkad is currently shopping the rights for film and TV. This comes from John Squires. Again, this is an exclusive report from Bloody Disgusting, but let's read through it and let's discuss it. Last Halloween season marked the release of Halloween Ends, the final film in a 3-film trilogy from director David Gordon Green, billed as the final battle, really, this time, between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. Halloween Ends wrapped up not only Gordon Green's sequel trilogy, but also Universal and Blumhouse's time with the iconic horror franchise. The sequel trilogy was produced by Blumhouse Productions and released into theatres by Universal Pictures as part of a pact with Miramax from a deal with Malik Akkad's Trancas International Films. And it looks like the ball is now back in the court of the Akkad family. So what's next for the Halloween franchise, you might be wondering? Bloody Disgusting can exclusively report this week that Malik Akkad's Trancas International Films is actively shopping the rights to the Halloween franchise around Hollywood. For clarity, while Miramax co-owns the film rights, Trancas is the sole owner of all television rights. From what we understand, there is a massive bidding war going on right now for television rights, with several different parties interested in vying for the chance to bring Michael Myers back to life. We're hearing exclusively that A24 and Miramax are the 2 main parties currently in battle for TV rights, and that A24 is currently leading the charge. Okay, interesting. As you might recall, A24 recently won the rights to produce a Friday the 13th television series, and it's currently being made for the Universal-owned Peacock titled Crystal Lake. Bloody Disgusting sources have also indicated that Trancas is open to both film and television projects, and they're currently taking offers from studios and streamers alike. Everything is on the table at this time, and it's ultimately up to Trancas to field pitches and decide what is most appealing to them in the wake of Gordon Green's sequel trilogy. Miramax would be a participant in any film deal as they co-own film rights to all sequels. Last year's Halloween Ends was the 13th installment in the Halloween franchise, which to date has never made its way onto the small screen. Could Michael Myers return with a television series? Or is another film reboot next up on the menu? Only time will tell. Stay tuned for more on all things Halloween as we learn it. In the meantime, comment down below. I don't need to read the rest of that because that's just what's written on the website, but appreciate Bloody Disgusting's reporting. So, we'll have a quick look at the chat before we sort of dive into this. Fran, get him on the New Japan news on the next wrestling arena. In regards to me attempting to pronounce names, please God, no. The gruff goddamn ends, in terms of Halloween ends, was awful. Old news, and I know we always say it, but it's Halloween. I usually watch the 2018 film every year. Berkeley's, that's the plan now. We're well known for our New Japan wrestling coverage. Fran, I'd actually prefer another Friday the 13th than another Halloween right now. Yes. So I am a Halloween fanboy. Halloween was one of the first horror films I've ever seen. If you want to hear my thoughts and feelings on Halloween as a whole, just check back on any of the earlier shows in the run. We specifically did a Halloween show. We've done a tier list before with Dean Jovey, good friend of mine. And we also did a trilogy review. Yes. Yeah, we did. I can't remember what I gave the film. We did a trilogy review, I'm sure, talking about David Gordon Green's films. I'm pretty sure that got quite good views from memory. And yeah, it's interesting how that film series, specifically, I suppose, the trilogy sequel trilogy, has really peppered my enthusiasm for future installments. I think with Friday the 13th, I was always like, I liked them, but I was never a diehard. I didn't grow up watching Friday the 13th. I watched them much later on when I was in my late teens, and I enjoyed them. You know, they're a little bit rinse and repeat, but I enjoyed them. I think I found the story a bit more compelling in Halloween in regards to the character, the Loomis connection, and all of that. I always found that quite interesting and creepy, and I didn't mind the whole Thorn trilogy that came at one point. And Rob Zombie's films, they have their moments. I hated Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, as I've discussed ad nauseum the first time I saw it. When I did a rewatch, actually, there's some good stuff in there. It's a very Rob Zombie film. It's not entirely a bad thing, but it's not, it's a Rob Zombie film at the end of the day. With these, I find, if you just take Halloween, John Carpenter's, and then 2018 Halloween, David Gordon Green, they work well as a two-piece. You've got the original, and then you've got 40 odd years later. Halloween Kills had a couple of good moments. It had some good kills, and I'm not going to deny that. It had some really well shot continuation moments for the first film from 1978. It's very nice little moments there to kind of connect this, what happened, how he got caught. I liked that, but I don't know what they did with the character than that. It was one of those films that kind of just left me a bit deflated, that I had to think about after watching it in the cinema. Did I actually enjoy that? And as I digested it, not really. And Halloween Ends, I do need to at some point give it another watch, because I think everything deserves a second watch to see if there was something you didn't pick up on, if you judged things initially and your opinion on that has softened, or you were, as a viewer, offended by stylistic or character choices the first time around, but then when you watch it a second time around, you go, oh, actually, you know what, I can see what they were going for there. It's important to be able to reappraise things. Doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be a positive, and that you're going to reappraise something and go, actually, yeah, I like the cut of that their jib. I like what they were going for. I enjoyed that, when I'm actually now thinking about it. But in terms of a new film, a new TV series, obviously we've never really had Michael Myers in TV. You could argue with Friday the 13th, though. Yes, we've got Crystal Lake coming out, but prior to that, there was a TV series that I'm pretty sure had no connection to Jason, who's obviously synonymous with the Friday the 13th film series. And we had Freddy's Nightmares, in two horror series that I've never actually seen, I'm just aware of. And other than one episode which focused on Freddy, I don't think he was ever a main character other than like a host. But we never had that with Halloween, which I think is partly what I guess maybe kind of gave it a bit of an elevated feel in terms of film series. But with Halloween Ends, with Kills to an extent, but Halloween Ends, it did kind of kill my enthusiasm for future entries, because what else could they do? I won't go into spoiler territory, although the film's a couple of years old now, or a year old, I should say, actually. It seems like longer. But they didn't leave it open for a sequel. So, and also, I kind of don't really care about any of the characters anymore to see what happens next. You know, with the choices that were made for certain characters. I mean, I remember when we were doing the news last year, and plot synopsis details started coming out about Halloween Ends, and I remember my expectations being slightly lowered after Kills. And when we were looking at the news and it was saying about just a general brief synopsis of the new film, I remember reading it and being like, none of that fills me with hope or intrigue. And somehow I was still disappointed. But I just want to kind of be clear that if you enjoyed Halloween Ends, and I know a lot of people did, then by no means take my thoughts and feelings as an attack or anything negative, because, you know, horror is, there's something for everyone at the end of the day. So if you did enjoy Ends, then please don't be put off by my dislike for it. I'm in no way ever going to attack anyone for enjoying something that I didn't like, and vice versa. I wouldn't expect either way. But surely the only way to do this would be, if it was a TV series, a readaptation of the first film. And they already tried that with Rob Zombie's version, which was interesting. But it wasn't necessarily that great. It had some good moments. I've said before, I think he's a good director, just a bad writer. And yeah, or the only alternative would be they start doing this bullshit multiverse stuff and go, well, they kind of already have. Halloween H2O retconned the series and ignored everything after Halloween 2. Halloween 2018 retconned the series by ignoring everything after the first film. So, I mean, is it out the realms of possibility that they do a new Halloween film called Halloween? Bearing in mind at this stage, we've had Halloween, we've had Rob Zombie's, if you want to put the prefix on it, Halloween. So we've had Halloween, and 2018 Halloween. We've already had 3 films in the Halloween series just called Halloween. I have maybe said on the stream before, I've said maybe just to friends, I'm fucking done with multiverses. I'm done with, you know, and I know with Marvel it's obviously more obvious there's a multiverse, there's all different versions, but a lot of things are doing their own, like, multiverse things or parallel universe stuff. I'm done. I don't give a poop about that kind of stuff. So that's almost then peppered me looking at things where they do this new sequel is retconning the events, and I just think, why? I mean, we've obviously got Exorcist coming out soon, and as far as I'm aware, that is ignoring the sequels, which I think is probably a little bit more understandable, because it's had a couple of prequels. It's had a prequel that was remade, again, which I remember just being pretty much the same film from memory. But it had 2 sequels, the first of which was absolute dog shit. The second of which is good. I don't think it's as good as it gets made out to be, personally, but that's just a personal opinion. But I still think it has some great moments in it. It's just got some weird editing choices and a couple of kind of cheesy moments for my taste. But it's still a decent film. It's still a good film. I've got the Blu-ray of it, which I'm very pleased about. And the TV series was a continuing the first film, again ignoring the sequels. although more so ignoring the second film due to the character association. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing because the second film was absolute shite. So with this new film, it appears to be that it's ignoring the TV series, which is unfortunate but not unheard of. More often than not, a TV series isn't regarded as canon when it comes to new filmmakers coming along, because you look at what the audience know, and the reason the Exorcist TV series was cancelled was due to low viewership. So, you know, we are getting another thing that is retconning a series, but I suppose with Halloween, we'd got 6 films in before our first retcon. We had a couple of films before a reboot series. We then had a new thing ignoring the reboot series and retconning all of the sequels altogether. And you just get to a point where it's like, I get you want to adhere to the viewing public who may not be aware of all the sequels. But at what point are you just also kind of slapping in the face the people who are the diehard fans? But I don't know. If they have an interesting story to tell, I'm all for it. And I'm never going to not watch something out of weird protest, because at the end of the day, the original's never going anywhere. So if you watch something and you don't like it, that's fine. Move along. But with this, and the long and short of this kind of ramble, and I know it doesn't take much for me to go on a Halloween Ends rant, but we specifically got a news piece regarding Halloween film series. And normally when there's a new Halloween film coming out, I'm like, oh yeah, what are we going to get? What are we going to get? Okay, where are they going to go with this? But after Ends, and it's not just what they did with Michael in Ends, like he's just a character, a central character, but a character. It's just a lot of things with Ends. I just find that the prospect of a new film or a new TV series, unless they came out with some sort of trailer when there is a new project or a plot brief, you know, a little bit of a synopsis, a blurb, that I read and thought, or I saw and thought, whoa, okay, that looks badass, then you've got me on board. But as it stands, no. All right, let's have a look at the chat before we move on to the last few bits of news. A slasher series of anything could be cool if paced right. Yes, there is a series which is, most of it is on Netflix. Some of the newer series are actually on Shudder, and there is a new series that I haven't watched yet because time, called Slasher. It is a mixed bag, though. It does it well in terms of it being a slasher series with really over-the-top slasher deaths, you know, very sort of, you know, modern tech gore in line with the sensibilities of like the 80s, late 80s, and late 80s Italian horror, and, you know, early 90s kind of grime sort of horror. But the stories are a bit of a mishmash. If you're a gore fiend, definitely check out the series called Slasher. But it's quite a mixed bag in terms of the storylines, and there's some downright nasty moments. Berkeley says, but most streaming series pad their series by at least 2 episodes. Yeah, that is true. That is true. I think that the sweet spot seems to be 8 to 10 episodes max. You don't need any more than that, especially for a horror series. Fran, in terms of horror TV, if you've never seen it, I recommend the 2009 series Harper's Island. I've never seen it, but I have heard of it. I've heard very good things. Gruff, Effin and Jeffin galore in regards to Rob Zombie's Halloween. Fran, Halloween, the multiverse of Michaels. That's pretty good. I still hate multiverses at this stage, but that's quite a good little one there. Fran, either that or multiverse of Myers. So you have one tale where the sister killed little Michael. Yeah, see, again, those would be interesting things, and I guess that's a bit like the Marvel What If. But I guess just for me, and I don't even know what's caused it, but the prospect of any sort of multiversal concept, just my brain doesn't even want to entertain it personally at the moment. I imagine I imagine maybe I'll get around to it. I mean, there's new series like Marvel, Disney type shows that I do keep thinking I should give that a go, but there's just this hesitation now where I'm so far out of the loop after falling off the Marvel bandwagon, that I think, is it just going to be quite daunting trying to watch something new when I've not seen 10 other things in between, you know? And yes, Gruff, we do mention ends every single episode. It hurts me, and I don't know why, but I always do. So, next up, we've got a few more little bits of news to get through. Where the Devil Roams, new movie from Hellbender filmmaker sets November release. The Addams Family debuted on the scene with the DPU dig and returned last year for Shudder's Hellbender. Up next from the family, and yes, they are indeed a real family, is Where the Devil Roams, and the film is headed for theatres in November. Yellow Veil Pictures announced today on social media to look for Where the Devil Roams in theatres on November 3rd. You'll then be able to rent and buy the film on cable and digital platforms on November 7th. Previously, it was reported that the film that the film will head exclusively to Tubi. Set during Depression-era America, Where the Devil Roams follows a family of murderous sideshow performers as they travel the dying carnival circuit. Toby Poser, Zelda Adams, and John Adams star in the film, as well as write and direct. Okay, so I did watch and review Hellbender, the Shudder film, last year. And I do think it's incredible that a family worked together to make a film. It was starring the mother and the daughter as witches, directed by the dad of the Addams Family. So I think it's a great achievement in that regard. As far as the story went, I think it had some okay moments, but then there was these like shoehorned moments of them sort of jamming as a band, and I get it was to kind of show that they've got this unique mother-daughter bond, but with having such a close bond and the limitations, which we then found out throughout the film, in regards to the isolation being imposed on them by the mother onto the daughter for good reason. I did get the purpose of those bits, but it did, especially being quite a short cast type film, I guess it was also shot during COVID, it did just sort of give it that proper COVID film feel, which is, we've discussed before, it's a very unfortunate thing, and more power to people making films throughout COVID. We finished not Harvest of the Dead, Devil in the Woods during COVID, but yeah, there's just that kind of stank to a film made during that period, in terms of when it's very apparent that there's only two people here. We got to do the best we can with the limited cast and or crew that we have. But it had its moments. So hey, when Where the Devil Roams comes to Shudder or wherever streaming in the UK, I'll give it a watch. So, fans of Troma, the Toxic Avenger Red Band trailer teases a jaw-ripping good time. The Toxic Avenger is coming back to life. This is written up by Megan Navarro. Toxic Avenger is coming back to life in a brand new movie from Legendary Entertainment, with Macon Blair directing the upcoming remake of the Troma classic. Thanks to IGN, a new Not Safe for Work Red Band trailer teases the jaw-ripping R-rated mayhem. Described as a brand new reimagining of Lloyd Kaufman's classic The Toxic Avenger, the film centers on Winston Goose, played by Peter Dinklage. Check out the Eyewitness Toxie trailer below on blooddisgusting.com to get a feel for the zany horror comedy fun, along with a few notable Troma callbacks. Troma previews, while the original film, which premiered in 1984, followed the fate of Melvin Ferd Junko III, who goes from zero to toxic hero in a case of bullying gone awry, Macon Blair's contemporary take follows a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength all his own. Peter Dinklage stars as downtrodden janitor Winston Goose, who, after falling into a vat of toxic waste, becomes none other than the Toxic Avenger. This timely reimagining is up to its eyeballs in environmental themes as Winston goes up against the evil forces of greed and corruption to save his son, his friends, and his community. The official synopsis also notes, even as this story exists on its own terms, the spirit undoubtedly remains connected to the original. Troma fans old and new will be pleased to know that the film has been rated R for violence and gore as per Troma tradition. So, I had never actually seen the original Toxic Avenger. I remember as a kid, there was a cartoon series. Was it just called the Toxic Avengers? Or it was a cartoon series centered on a team with the Toxic Avenger as like one of the central characters. And I always enjoyed the cartoon series. I can't remember anything about it now, but I remember I had some toys from that series. And it was then years later, I think I caught part of one of the sequels on the Sci-Fi Channel, which, I have to credit my horror upbringing on. And I think it was one of the sequels that had Corey Feldman playing Kabuki Man or something like that. I just remember thinking, what the fuck is this? And that's the limited exposure I've had to Troma films. I've actually technically been, I think, in a Troma release, one of the short film collections we did called Grindsploitation, or another short film collection that me and Peter Goddard shot and I helped in some regard, I think has been on a Troma release. So that's a little bit of a pat on the back that I have to give myself when we talk about Troma. It certainly had Lloyd Kaufman involved in it, whichever it was. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it might have been a Troma release. But yeah, I've never really watched much Troma films. I think I saw a bit of Poultrygeist and thought this was absolutely fucking disgusting. Too much for my tastes. But that's about it. Let's have a quick catch up on the chat. We're getting some Troma chat here. So, Berkeley's, how can anyone think an upscale version of a Troma film is a good idea? The magic is ruined. It will be interesting to see how or if they're able to capture it. It does have a bit of an all-star cast here. You've got Elijah Wood, who looks like Danny DeVito's Penguin in the pictures I've seen, Julia Davis, Taylor Page, Kevin Bacon, and Jacob Tremblay also star. So it's got a bit of a cast behind it, and obviously Peter Dinklage. Fran, not seen the original, but did see the animated series. Now looking back, it feels an odd choice to spin off into a kid's cartoon. Yeah, which is why I was very surprised to find out that it was an R-rated film originally. So I guess similar to Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, or Tomatoes. There was a cartoon series that I remember, and it was only years later that there was some dodgy, I realised that they came from some dodgy films. Gruff, I remember back in the 90s, I think Sci-Fi used to show Troma films on a Saturday night in the early hours. Oh man, I missed out there. Seen a few of the Toxic Avenger films, but my favourite Troma film was Class of Nukem High. I always hear good things about Class of Nukem High. I think it's on the Arrow player. I've just never got around to watching it. And then Gruff says, yes, I watched the cartoon too. Fran, Pericles says to Fran, they did Rambo and RoboCop and all kinds of not suitable stuff. So I do vaguely remember the RoboCop cartoon series. I don't remember Rambo. One of my favourites growing up, and I remember years later actually having a look on Wikipedia to see if they ever actually had an ending. I think instead it had a dodgy second series, which was completely different. I used to love Conan the Adventurer. I saw that cartoon series way before seeing Conan the Barbarian or Conan the Destroyer. Funnily enough, I've never actually seen Conan the Barbarian all the way through. Conan the Destroyer was the first film I saw in the series, similar to Ghostbusters 2 being my first Ghostbusters film. Always the way. Always the way. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how they took certain properties and went, yeah, that's going to be suitable for kids. We can market that. I guess in that period, a lot of cartoon series were centered on selling toys. If you ever want a nostalgia hit, go on somewhere like YouTube or Instagram or I guess TikTok for like cartoons of our youth, and you get these like highlight reels, the intros of cartoons. Skeleton Warriors was one that I always loved, even though it kind of failed. But I remember wanting the toys, but they were a bit expensive when they were released, and again it kind of failed. But I guess with these things, it was a case of, can we make toys out of it? Yes, right, do a cartoon series of it to kind of sell the toys, because I remember the artwork for the series. I remember seeing the series, but I can't remember a thing about it. I remember the toys though. So Gruff, I had an LCD Tiger handheld game of the show. Oh man, the LCD Tigers. I had a Terminator one. I think I had like a Batman, the animated series one. I had so many of them. I mean, looking back on them, they are kind of shite now because of the limitations of them. But in terms of, I guess, cost effectiveness, they were a hell of a fun deal back in the day. Berkeley's at least Toxic Avenger could ride off the popularity of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's true, I guess, because Toxic Avengers, Toxic Crusaders series, it was a team from what I remember. Fran, I think it was a little bit environmental theme, like a gross Captain Planet. Love Captain Planet too. Eddie the Beast is in the chat. Hey, Eddie. I hope you're doing well. Gruff, I forgot about the Conan cartoon. Remembers that as well. Conan the Adventurer. Remember the snake wizard bad guy? Thothamon or something. Yes, the snake wizard bad guy. He turned Conan's parents into stone, and that was the whole thing going around the world of Historia or whatever it's called, turning people to stone, and Conan going on his quest to vanquish them. Brilliant. It's a brilliant series. But again, I think it got a second series, but instead of it being a resolution, it was like Conan and his band of warriors or whatever. You know when they do like a second series, but the art styles change completely or whatever. Never saw it. I don't think it really got shown on CBBC or BBC Two, whatever show. I think it was a BBC series back in the day. Not sure, but anyway, again, sidetracked by talking about cartoons of my youth. So next up, Child's Play Collection 4K set from Arrow Video, including all of the movies plus the Living with Chucky doc. Comes from John Squires by Disgusting. Arrow Video, who, along with like Second Sight, do put out some brilliant horror releases. Arrow Video is bringing the entire original Child's Play franchise to 4K Ultra HD with a brand new set they've just announced in the morning, exclusively being released in the UK. Oh shit. When's this come out? Normally we get shafted here in the UK and we don't get anything, but yeah, that looks quite good actually. I've just scrolled down and gonna have to look at how much that is. Shit. My poor wallet. Not this month. Anyway, good news. While it's a UK release, Chucky fans... normally when I go quiet, it's because I've loaded up Amazon. With a UK release, Chucky fans in the United States can still grab a copy of the set online and enjoy it at home. 4K discs are inherently region-free, we will remind, which is something I need to try and remember more of, that 4K releases are region-free. So when I moan that we don't get things in the UK, doesn't necessarily mean that we can't still buy a copy from America, including every single film in the original Child's Play saga, plus the Screenbox documentary Living with Chucky. The set is available on either 4K Ultra HD or Blu-ray. There's also an Arrow Store exclusive version of the set with a variant artwork. Right. Oh fuck, no thank you. So the Child's Play collection, and I guess, obviously it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 films plus a documentary, bunch of whole extras and whatnot. The Arrow exclusive variant, which is a blue artwork style as opposed to the yellow, is £100, down from 120. No fucking way am I paying that. I like the Child's Play films or the Chucky films, if you're unaware, but not that much. No way, Jose. Yeah, they've not got it on Amazon. Yeah, no, not doing that. Not happening. If it was like 50 quid, then sure. But again, not this month. We're being good this month. But yeah, not that much money. Fuck that. If you're fans though of the Chucky films, check it out. And I think the thing is as well, it's an Arrow release, and I really do love what they do with their releases. I've got Deep Red, I've got Tenebrae, I've got their releases of Demons, Demons 2, which are excellent slices of Italian horror, and they're really nice. You know, if you're a little bit of a collector, then they're definitely worth checking out because they do put some real effort into their presentation. And they've always sort of been the daddy for a while. Although Second Sight, who I got, I think my Dawn of the Dead box is Second Sight, but then more recently, It Follows. Really great collection with a book as well. It's just they put the effort in. So last bit of news: The Well. Bloody Not Safe for Work Images preview new horror movie starring Terrifier 2 star Lauren Levera. This comes from John Squires. Evil has new depths in Federico Zambaglione's dark supernatural thriller The Well, which puts Terrifier 2 star Lauren Levera into another bloody battle for survival. The Well stars Lauren Levera from Terrifier 2 as Lisa Gray, a budding art restorer who travels to a small Italian village to bring a medieval painting back to its former glory, unaware of the danger from an evil curse and a monster born of myth and brutal pain. Starring alongside Levera is Claudia Gerini, Giovanni Lombardo Radice, Taylor Zautka, Linda Zambaglione, Jonathan Dylan King, Lorenzo Renzi, Juan Luigi Calvani, Yassine Fadel, Melanie Gaydos, Stefano Martinelli, and newcomer Courage Oviawi. So, the imagery that's available on blooddisgusting.com. Okay, it's kind of disturbing looking. Yeah, okay. I mean, it looks kind of fucked up, to be honest. But it's starring Lauren Levera. Now, she does a hell of a performance on Terrifier 2. Part of the reason why I actually quite enjoyed Terrifier 2 is, one, it was surprising that it was a lot more coherent in terms of a story than the first film. The first film just seemed to be just, Art the Clown. Yeah, he's a great, unique new killer, but that's it, really. With Terrifier 2, yeah, up the stakes. The gore is insanely disgusting. But we've got a great new leading lady. So her in a new film is certainly one to watch out for. She does an incredible performance in Terrifier 2. But yeah, some of this artwork, oh man. It looks pretty nasty. Someone is getting their eye clawed out with some sort of like rake type device that's going through their eyebrow and actually through the eye. Yeah, visceral. Now, before we kind of get started, we're going to do reviews in a moment, and we're obviously talking about Fright Night in a little moment. In my rush to get things ready and sort out bits and bobs, I haven't prepared my pictures in the streaming software. So, for those listening on podcast platforms, please forgive me for my random mutterings while I prepare some images. For those watching live, yeah, also apologies, because I'm going to have to do some on-screen editing because I'm a moron who rushes to get ready and stresses and doesn't think, what else do I need to do before I hit go live? Not be a goober. So we will get into our reviews in a moment. I'll have a quick look at the chat, which is probably not a good idea to try and do while at the same time doing this. And I say that, and then the image that I need isn't actually even saved. Okay, so this is all going off the rails, guys. Okay, so we are going to be getting to the reviews. Where's my review music? That will buy me a moment. Okay, that's brought me enough time. Right, there we go. The first film that we are going to be reviewing is a film that we mentioned a little while ago called The Black Demon. Again, apologies that I'm editing while on stream. I'm bad at multitasking. So, The Black Demon is a 2023 science fiction thriller film directed by Adrian Grunberg from a screenplay by Boyce Esquerra and starring Josh Lucas, Fernande Ojelo, and Julio Cesar Cedillo. In the film, a stranded family on a crumbling oil rig in Baja faces off against a vengeful megalodon shark. So we watched this on Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount Plus, or if you have Sky Cinema, you get Paramount Plus for free. Certainly worth doing. I generally watch it for workaholics, but we watched Lioness, the series on there as well recently, which is generally very good. And we noticed that this film had gone on there, and it's one which had piqued Vix's interest a little while ago when it came up on the news as a new shark-based horror film. Yeah, it's. We'll do what we normally do. We'll start reading the blurb, and then I'll start kind of talking about my thoughts and feelings and what I liked and what I didn't like maybe. So Nixon Oil Company, inspector of Nixon Oil Company, Paul Sturgis, is sent to a small Mexican town in Baja, California, to check on El Diamante, an offshore oil rig. He brings his wife Ines and their two children, Audrey and Tommy, along for a vacation. Upon arrival, the family finds the town in ruins. The remaining locals are suspicious and unfriendly, and fear turns to anger when they learn that Paul works for the company that commissioned the oil rig. Paul, seeking to see if the rig is worth revitalizing or decommissioning, takes a boat to it. He arrives to find the rig dilapidated, hazardous, and surrounded by an oil spill, crewed only by two remaining rig workers, Chato and Junior, along with their pet Chihuahua. After being harassed and stalked by the angry locals, Paul's family decides to follow in another boat. As the boat arrives, Chato and Junior begin to panic and fire flares as a 70-ton megalodon shark, the Black Demon, which is prowling the waters, begins to chase the boat. So, first off with this film, the megalodon is enormous. And the megalodon itself looks quite decent. But it is a mixed bag when it comes to VFX or SFX. The moments with the shark, they are kind of few and far between, but I think that is good. I think what makes Jaws so effective is you don't see the shark that often. I mean, when you do, when you see enough of it, you think, oh, right, that does look like just a big tube of rubber with some teeth on it, which is a little bit, negative, but it's obviously an excellent film. It's a classic, but less is more. With this, it's quite effective when you do see the shark. There's a couple of moments where it has these feats of destruction, which seem plausible for the size of the shark. There's no over-the-top face-off. There's no one punching the shark and having a fist fight or anything silly. But you do get some genuine moments of terror when it is arriving. And there's a particular moment where someone is kind of caught in quite a difficult position. And I'm going to keep this vague, not to give anything away, because it is a very good scene, actually. And things aren't looking so good because the shark is there. And then you start hearing metal crunching and crushing, and then you start seeing teeth coming through either side through this metal work. And that was a very good scene, and it wasn't overtly gratuitous, but the implication was there of what was happening or what could well happen. And that is scary enough in itself. So there's good stuff in this film. The acting is a little bit of a different kettle of fish. I don't necessarily think the acting is bad in the film. The acting on the whole was generally fine. You know, it was okay. But the lead, Josh Lucas, who has a bit of a name recognition, he's been in a few things. He's been in Sweet Home Alabama, Life as We Know It, J. Edgar, The Forever Purge, Yellowstone, which seems to always get banged on about, American Psycho, A Beautiful Mind. So he's got quite a storied career to an extent. He is actually one of the weaker actors in this film. Not entirely. It just seems to be maybe they used weird takes or they didn't do multiple takes of certain scenes, just because there's certain interactions where his response or his reaction to something was noticeably corny or noticeably a bit like, oof, that was a little bit rough. But his character arc is quite good, actually. I thought, you know, that it was quite mapped out. There's a few logical leaps in the film, I guess, to be critical of. And I would say for an hour and a half film, well, an hour and 40 minutes, I should say, it does feel like it drags in places. So maybe the pacing is a little bit off. I don't know, maybe they got to the oil rig too soon, so then they spend too much time there. Maybe it could have worked more as the second half of the film. Not sure. I'm not trying to rewrite the film, but you know, it's got some acting moment issues. It's got some pacing issues, and in regards also to the graphics in the film, the VFX, there's good moments with the shark that look great, the moments in peril, but then there's other moments where body parts are seen in the water to kind of emphasize what has happened to the crew, and some of those moments look so cheesy, like in terms of cheap looking effects, which is a little bit of a letdown, especially when the shark itself I generally think looks quite good. And I say that in all honesty because I've watched other films recently, like the sequel to 47 meters down. Oh shit! Just hit my. Oh, sorry. I've got a sit-stand desk, and I randomly hit the control pad. It started rising. There should be a lock button on there. Don't think there is. Anyway, yeah. I watched recently 47 meters down Unchained, and yeah, that was a sequel to a fairly successful smaller film, and the shark in that looked awful. It really did. Shark in this, by comparison, considering it's a megalodon, so a lot more outlandish, well, looked all right, actually. So in terms of what I'm going to give this as a score, I think a 5.5. It's not a bad film. It could have been a solid 7. I think shave the time down a bit, sort out a couple of the pacing issues. And I don't know. I don't know if it'd be a case of have a different lead. I don't want to, you know, shit on Josh Lucas, but maybe do a few different takes, because some of the takes that were in the film were just like, oh man, you know, noticeably kind of shitty acting in places. But not. It's not like everyone. Everyone else is kind of fine in there. There's no one who really stands out as putting in a solid performance. You know, they're okay, but the lead has his moments where you're like, okay, it's the lead for a reason, but those moments are few and far between because there's other moments that are just kind of shite. 5.5 out of 10 is what I give The Black Demon. Next up, another film that I need to add the artwork for because I completely forgot. I completely forgot to add it before. Let's have a quick look at the chat. What's popping off in the chat? So Eddie the Beast, kind of similar to Jaws in a way in regards to the Black Demon. I do like a good shark film, the graph says. Fran, looking at the screenshot, this looks like a Vix film, 100%. Vix, teehee, you know I love a shark, Fran. Fran, yes, and that looks like one big shark. I saw the trailer a while ago and thought it looked like it might be good. Well, I would definitely say if the trailer tickled your fancy, then I would recommend giving it a go. Right, why is the image not loading up? Oh god, they're all in weird file formats. Alright, there we go. So, the next film we are going to be reviewing, and again, apologies for my slapdash adding of images to the live show as we go, is the A24 release, directed by the Filippo brothers, or if you're like me, a fan of the YouTube channel, the Raka Raka. We're talking about Talk to Me, which came out, I believe, late last year, 2022. It's an Australian supernatural horror film, directed by Danny and Michael Filippo and written by Danny Filippo and Bill Heinzman, based on a concept by Daley Pearson. It stars Sophie Wilde, Alexandra Jensen, Joe Bird, Miranda Otto, Zoe Tarakes, Chris Alosio, Marcus Johnson, and Alexandra Stephenson. The film follows a group of teenagers who discover they're able to contact spirits using a mysterious embalmed hand, only for things to go too far. Normally, I would read the first few sentences of the blurb to kind of go through, a brief setup of the film. But the way that this film opens, I feel to discuss that opening would kind of take away some of the surprise. So we will kind of skip ahead slightly. But still, opening of the film gives you a brief kind of idea. 17-year-old Maya is struggling with the second anniversary of her mother Ria's death by overdose, and she has a distant relationship with her father Max. She's good friends with a girl called Jade and Jane's little brother Riley, who's a little bit of a goody two-shoes. But they sneak out one night to go to a gathering that's hosted by Haley and Joss, where the main attraction is a severed, embalmed hand of mysterious origin. Holding the hand and saying, "Talk to me," allows a person to communicate with a spirit, followed by saying, "I let you in," enabling the spirit to possess them. The connection must be severed before 90 seconds in order to prevent the spirits from binding themselves to that person. So, the concept of a communication potentially going wrong isn't necessarily something new. But with this film, it just feels so fresh. It just feels like such a fresh, interesting take on it. What they've done with this film is they've managed to instantly make an object synonymous with the film. So, for example, obviously, Nightmare on Elm Street, you have Freddy Krueger. The slasher films, obviously, it's the killer more so than particular moments. But there's, the Conjuring, more often than not, people automatically think of Annabelle so much as so that it had its own spin-off series, as we discussed previously. But with this, from the artwork straight away and the trailers, you see the hand. But when you watch the film, oh my God, it just adds a whole new level to it. And you might look at it and think, well, a hand? How does that work? But it makes sense when you see how they interpret it into the film, or intersperse it into the film with these interactions with the dead, or so to speak. Around the chat, Raka Raka. So are these the guys working on a new Street Fighter film? Exactly. So to go off on a bit of a blurb, I was very, very hyped to see this film, kind of from the point of it being announced. So the Raka Raka are YouTubers initially from Australia who built up a following doing YouTube videos. They did a lot of wrestling videos, really sort of flashy editing with stunt work. Kind of this, I think they're like quite self-taught, but they've kind of, they're entrepreneurs in the YouTube game. And they would get bigger and bigger with their videos. They did like a Marvel versus DC video, which is on YouTube. You have to check it out if you haven't already. Like I say, with the wrestling, a video did the rounds a few years ago, which was a hardcore wrestling match between some wrestler, I can't remember who, and Ronald McDonald. Ronald McDonald is one of these brothers. One of their characters that they would regularly do was a deranged, psychotic version of Ronald McDonald with a really high-pitched voice, who would like drink vodka and fight people. It's brilliant, hilarious stuff. But with their YouTube channel, it got big. YouTube then changed their laws and restrictions, so things like foul language or violence would get at one point instantly demonetized, or videos would kind of get hidden. So if you were subscribed to a channel, you wouldn't get notified that they had a new video out. You'd have to go and search for it. So the channel, the platform which had, gave them some recognition, kind of went against them. So it's around that time they then thought, well, what can we do? And I don't know when the concept started or what their connection is to this Daily Pearson, but they began working on and writing this film, Talk to Me. And their channel on YouTube had gone quiet for a while due to the focus on the film and the issues with YouTube. But then the news had come out that their film was creating a real buzz. It had been picked up by A24, who again have really kind of become the go-to in higher brow horror. We've had Midsommar, Hereditary, Lamb, a bunch of other films. I think Pig might be an A24 release. So it was really quite exciting to see kind of where they started from to where they are now. And even at one point in one of their videos, they discussed that they could have had a larger budget that was offered to them in America if they filmed it in America with American actors, or if they made sure they didn't have Australian accents, because studios thought, well, that's just going to marginalise the film and it's not going to have a widespread appeal. But they thought, well, no, we'd rather make the film how we want to make it rather than having to, cut corners or make changes and kind of water down our vision. So it's really quite exciting from that behind the scenes perspective, as a fan of the channel prior to that. But in terms of in the film, it's just so much of this works really well. It's one of the few films in a while that I've been able to watch at home, or at my new home with Victoria, and just be engrossed the entire time. More often than not these days, if I'm watching something at home, I can be very easily distracted by, I've had a message on my phone. Oh, let's look this up on Wikipedia, or, oh, I recognise that. Let's, easily get distracted by picking up the phone and then, miss moments, or, your concentration isn't there. I was glued to this film, honestly. The moments of violence and gore are done so well, because they almost come out of nowhere and are very shocking, but they make sense. It's not just a case of, whoa, that just felt really out of place. It works in connection with what you're seeing and with developing the story. I think the makeup effects on both, I guess, victims of violence or the dead are excellent, and it's truly quite creepy in places. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I think Sophie, I don't know what I call her, Sophie Wilde puts in a great performance as the lead, Mia. And the fact is, she's not a goody two-shoes golden girl. But she's kind of in that middle ground. It's not the goody two-shoes golden girl, but it's not the off the rails, completely, for want of a better term, damaged because of the issues that she is going through and the struggles and the upset. She's a nice girl. She's got a good friendship. They've, her friends, family have really sort of taken her in because she's quite distant from her dad because of, what happened to her mum. But also at the same time, she's not necessarily respecting boundaries in regards to her friend's boyfriend and the brief history they have there. And there's these moments where you sort of think, she's not like your typical leading lady in a horror film in terms of Not to say goody two shoes, but I guess goody two shoes. And I think that's actually quite interesting. It's not a negative. It makes them a bit more of a rounded character. And also the kid that plays Riley, where he's a bit of a goody two shoes, who wants to sort of, he sees everyone else having fun and he wants to enjoy it as well. His performance in this is excellent. There's moments where you feel his fear and you feel other people's fear, without kind of going too much into it. Really, really, the acting is all quite top notch. It feels genuine. I did a review last year of I think it was during the Christmas period, and it was a Shudder film with a robotic Santa that was on a rampage. I can't remember the title of it now, but it was a Shudder release. And I remember with that initially thinking, oh, this could be quite cool. It looks like a quite awesome set. But the dialogue between the characters in the first 20 minutes was just Rob Zombie dialogue, where everything's fucking this and fucking, oh, you fucking smashed the fucking shit out of that fucking prick, fucking. And it's like, I probably talked like that when I was like 14. It's like, I just swear I do what I want. When you're an adult, it's like, I mean, yeah, I swear this is a show that has effing and jeffing on it. It's not every other word, though. My vocabulary isn't that limited. So the point of that is that during that film, I just thought, man, people don't talk like this. Or at least the people I know don't talk like this, where it's just continuous. Every other word's effing and jeffing. It just feels like, come on now. Like, come on. Whereas in this, the dialogue between this group of Australian teenagers, disenfranchised youth, it feels genuine. Like the mannerisms and actions between them seem like, oh, they look like they're friends. They've been doing this a while. They've been having fun. They know the score. These guys are more chummy than this other group, that are trying to integrate. There's just this genuineness that comes across, and I don't know if that's just a case that they struck gold with the actors that they cast in the film, or if that is just really good direction from Danny and Michael Filippo. But it's really good. And I know that's quite a blasé thing to kind of, or not blasé, but that's quite a basic bitch thing to say in reviewing a film. But yeah, it's really good. In regards to the hand, just to kind of go back to that, you might be asking yourself the reason of why are they doing this. You got to think, and again, I don't want to get into the story too much. I'll try to sort of skirt around what actually unfolds, of course, in the film, because I'd just have to say watch it. But to give a bit of kind of exposure to it, we're in the age when whenever anything is happening, everyone brings their phones out. Straight away, people are filming. Rather than getting involved or trying to break up, like let's say it's a fight or someone's in trouble or distressed, people, the youth, whatever, their instant reaction is get the phone out and film it or stream it, whatever. So during these, let's call it seances, for want of a better term, it's like a drug for the individual, because like you'd say, well, why are they doing it? Is it for the exposure, the clout, the rizz, which seems to be another bullshit phrase people throw around these days. I guess it's because it's kind of like a high, because for that period of time, whatever they kind of experience, they're not in control of their body and something else is inhabiting them. And it's a bit of a rush. It's unique. It's interesting how they've kind of gone about it. There's nothing really in this film that kind of disappointed me. Like I say, there's a couple of moments, and Vix will be able to attest to this, where my hands kind of went up to my face, not like to cover my eyes or anything, but to just be like the kind of involuntary reaction of, oh God, what are they doing? What is occurring right now? That is horrible. But it works. It makes sense. Last night we were talking after the film, and Vix had asked me, what would I give it as a review? And I say, well, I need to generally sleep on a film before I give it a review, because my instant reaction, I could need to sleep on it, because sometimes you have it with a film where you watch it and you think, yeah, that was awesome, but when you've had time to digest it, you're like, oh, that was a weird choice, and that didn't necessarily make sense, that plot point didn't really work, and you start dissecting it a little bit here and there. With Talk to Me, last night she asked for my kind of review, and I said, I guess if I was going to give it an instant reaction review, I'd say 8, maybe an 8.5. But now that I've had time to sleep on it, and, initially I was kind of hesitant to rent it, because rentals of premiere films are quite expensive, and I already pre-ordered this for the Blu-ray release later in October. So I was kind of initially happy to wait to watch it. But I'm glad we did watch it, because as you may be guessing, I did thoroughly enjoy it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's had some mixtures of reviews. Reviews seem to be aggregating between 6 to 10, whatever, or 9 or 10. Some people are like, oh, it's okay, it's not doing anything new or whatever, or some people are really enjoying it. I kind of fall into the latter, in that I found myself glued to it. I think the music, it was subtle, but it worked to heighten some scenes, and the moments of tension, of surprise, of violence were just handled really well. It's not gratuitous, but the moments when there is gratuity, it's done effectively. It's not prolonged, like, oh, look at this, look at that, oh, that looks real, doesn't it? Yeah, it's none of that. The gratuity is used to shock, and you are shocked when you see it briefly. It's how, to kind of going back to the Black Demon review, less is more, and I really do believe that. So I'm going to give Talk to Me 9 out of 10. Now, bearing in mind that I haven't pulled together pictures, because this has been a real kind of rush together stream. We did start a bit later, and it is 10 o'clock. I think it's pertinent, rather than me try to edit pictures live doing the stream and mess around in that regard, that we maybe just kind of have the show here. We don't talk about Fright Night. We save Fright Night for a future show. I mean, I'm thinking for next week, or not next week, the next show, we'll hopefully maybe have Saw X to review. We will maybe have The Exorcist Deceiver to review, because the next show I want to do is going to be looking at, when I've watched Exorcist Deceiver, I then want to do a show looking at the Exorcist series as a whole. But right now, it feels as if I was to talk about Fright Night now, it's going to be an even later finish, and I haven't got the pictures prepared because of how kind of rushed I was getting things ready. So, if you are watching live, stick around. We are going to do a watch party, and we will get into some prime horror. If you are listening on podcast platforms or watching this later on YouTube, don't know why my music isn't playing. Right, stick with me. While I'm trying to get music to play in the background. There we go. Bloody tech issues. Yeah, we'll leave the discussion for Fright Night to a time when I'm a little bit more prepared, and we can just go into it in greater detail and at a more reasonable hour, I feel. Let me just adjust my volume down because I'm deafening myself. Bloody tech gremlins, as Gruff says. So if you are catching us on podcast platforms, check us out on the next show. It'll be a little bit more prepared and put together. Give us a follow on whatever podcast platform you listen to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us a review if you haven't already. All helps. Hope you're enjoying the show. And try to check out twitch.tv/Tezz every other Friday for the live Ministry of Horror. Can be subject to change due to general bits and bobs going on, but that's such as life. So if you are listening to us on those platforms, I'll catch you later.